Hello, Internet, and welcome to episode 77 on the Deep Fried Neurons podcast. And this is part 1 of 4 of the Rules of the Internet series. I hope you enjoy and cue the fucking. I know what you're thinking. What do I mean by the rules of the internet? Of course, you would think that I would inform you about the IT Act 2000, a pretty restrictive and confusing piece of legislation in India, and the parallels that it has with DMCA in America or the Children's Protection COPPA, I think it's called Children's Privacy Protection Act in America or something like that. That could actually be useful to you. But that's not what I'm gonna do. Unfortunately, I'm here because I'm gonna make an episode about something that we understand to be a 4chan post, and it spawned a bunch of memes about itself because it was written as a joke and then it just took over. And it was written in 2006, I believe, improved upon in 2007. The original 47 rules of the internet. I forget the name of the number of the post on 4chan, but I definitely know there was 47 of them in the beginning, and then all of the rest of them became interchangeable, and the meme that's remaining is rule 34, rule 1 and 2, and rule 68, 63 or 68, either one. I don't exactly remember the number. Correct me in the chats. You know what? Sue me. I don't remember all of my research together. Anyway, the important reason I bring those numbers up in specific is because that's the meme, and if you have doubts about the fact of my awareness of the cringiness of these rules, have no doubt. It is pretty cringy. Some of us are gonna lose a neck by the end of them because this 4chan post has not aged the best. Not to mention it's very self-serious. Self-serious is not something that we look upon very greatly in the internet now. Not that it was looked upon very greatly back then, but a meme is a meme, is a meme, is a meme. And once it becomes eternal, the logic of it is to be questioned. And you'll understand why as we go through the rules of the internet. A prolific piece of literature, to be honest. I feel like culturally, to explain the internet, these rules would be very nice, very instrumental, if you will. And we won't just be talking about these rules because it's pretty cringe, and I'm so sure you'll get bored. It's not like I can read just a post to you guys and you'll buy it as content, right? So I'm just gonna take tangents and drag it across 4 episodes because fuck you, that's why. No, please don't leave. This is important to me. Anyway, the rule 1 and 2 are constant in all editions for reasons that are pretty obvious. It's because it's a Fight Club reference. In 1999, Fight Club came, and all the edgelords like myself, who existed in whether 2014 or 2004, appreciated the movie for its genius. And to be honest, it's not a secret that I love Fight Club. I think I wrote a video essay on it. It's my second most viewed video on the channel, which is great. Thank you for enjoying that if you're listening still. I really doubt it because it's so poorly produced. Dear God, I'm so sorry to do that to you. Anyway, rule 1 and rule 2 is we don't talk about B, and we don't talk about B. If you don't know what B is, /B/ is 4chan.org/B/ is the random posting board on 4chan, a place that used to be of great culture, but today is just a clusterfuck of, gory imagery and porn, along with misogyny thrown in there, all kinds of political incorrectness, sort of. And of course, B is very closely linked to 4chan.org/poll/, which is a Nazi echo chamber. If you had any doubts about that, I genuinely believe you could read more about it. Or don't check it out for yourself, but definitely read more about it. But red pilling as a method has constantly happened on poll, and I genuinely believe that it's a dangerous place to be currently, and I think poll is the reason why 4chan has such a horrible horrible reputation today. But it used to be a place of culture, say, 10 years ago. Rick Roll was born on B, and so was lolcats, and so was so much of the early internet culture. I think besides Rage Comics, almost all of them, even demotivational posts, were born on 4chan, especially on B. And this post is a nostalgic time when B was less toxic than it is now, and now is site that I'm petrified of. So anyway, getting on, there's rules 1 and 2, and that's your introduction to 4chan and its contribution to meme history. Then we'll talk about rules 3 to 6. Rule number 3, we are anonymous. Rule number 4, anonymous is legion. Rule number 5, anonymous never forgets. Rule number 6, anonymous can be a horrible, senseless, uncaring monster. Now, to get it off with, rule number 3 is not a rule. It's just not framed that way. Semantics wise, that's not a rule. But let's forgive that. This is an internet post. Understand that this has no legislative boundary. It's just a bunch of observations that is produced for the haha. But besides that, the part that they're talking about is how anonymity on the web is secretive. And if you're living under a rock, you would know about the online hacktivist group Anonymous, which was in a very large part, formed on 4chan, very infamously on B. And then they organized protests with the anarchist ideals in mind of freedom of access to information across a decade. And Anonymous, sort of, some of their attacks have, especially of the group that was formed on 4chan, have earned a lot of respect across the internet community, and as they should. They have flooded ISIS's website with gay porn. They've helped identify Twitter profiles made by ISIS to recruit people from the West and from the East, radicalizing accounts, for example. They also fought Lolita City, which is a child pornography website, and they helped identify some 5,100 people who were active users of the same in America. And I mean, of course, there's controversy there as to whether they jeopardized police investigations that were already going on, or did they actually help the police, but they chaotically helped dox these people and leak their information online. And of course, their contributions in Nigeria, where they trolled the government for removing subsidies and shut down some of their websites as a threat. And I think there are multiple operations still active from Anonymous where they're trying to take down institutions, Scientology being one of them. Scientology's protests were organized by Anonymous in part. But the thing about Anonymous is that they're not an organized group of people that have a very definite identity. Anonymous very essentially means anonymous, and the only symbol that we have linked to it is the Guy Fieri mask, and remember 5th of November, which is actually originated to Anonymous by the Alan Moore. I think Alan Moore is the writer of the comic V for Vendetta, for those of you who did not know that. And V for Vendetta is sort of a dystopian England where a revolutionary who works for the people is V, and he uses the Guy Fieri mask. And 5th of November, or remember 5th of November. Yeah, 5th of November is the date that the actual Guy Fieri's attempt to take down a government gathering by bombing under the parliament went sour, and he got arrested right before it was supposed to happen. And it's now considered, the loss of him is actually celebrated. That's the iconology, but if you needed to know that. But that's who Anonymous is. Anonymous is a loose group of like-minded individuals who usually gather to do good things. But the thing with Anonymous is that it's a mask that anybody can wear, and that's the sort of dangerous thing about it. You could wear the mask, go out and protest for peace, and the problem with vigilantism is that the mask can be misused very, very, very easily. For example, Anonymous and people on 4chan, that is 4chan.org/b/, organized a collective attempt to hack epilepsy awareness websites. And during epilepsy awareness months, they flooded Twitter feeds of people who were likely to have epilepsy with flashing lights. I don't remember the year. I think it's 2014, but I'm definitely sure that you can Google that. And understand that these people met at the same place. Not necessarily we don't have information to confirm that these people were the same group of individuals, but definitely they organize at the same place. And of course, the arrest of Sabu has been consequential to Anonymous, which was the hacktivist group, and he leaked information of about 18 people who were working with him on projects that were linked with Anonymous, the one Anonymous that we came to respect up until 2012. And you can look more up about that. Anonymous is still active from what I understand, but slowed down by two-factor authentication. There's a video linked in the description if you want to know just more about Anonymous's current state. And of course, they have made their triumphant returns to bring documents from the public domain of an alleged botched suit against Donald Trump for competing Jeffrey Epstein for the virginity of a 13-year-old. And of course, them shutting down Minneapolis Police Department's website, which also came up. So again, vigilantes are dangerous. I am very careful about appreciating this behavior, and to be honest, what they've done so far is commendable in certain circles, but they've also helped dox some people unnecessarily for personal vendettas, and Anonymous's name has been misused. So take that as you might. Anonymous is legion, Anonymous never forgives. This is also a collective will of the internet type of an argument. While it is written for Anonymous and it is so goddamn cringy, sorry, but Anonymous is legion is because the internet as a whole is capable of coming together and fighting against you, especially if they don't like you. There's a reason why people get ostracized off of sites and nobody would respect them sometimes. And that's completely understandable. For example, JonTron got kicked off of YouTube and nobody in the YouTube community respected him for a while because in a debate he went on a Nazi rant. I don't know what the current situation is with him, but from what I understand, he's improved. I really hope that's true. And while JonTron is a less of a respectable one, Onision is constantly being kicked off of and limited from online communities for being the trashy, horrible person he is, and looking for drama, of course. If he finds this podcast, I'm pretty sure he'll make a video about it too. I hope he doesn't. Really hope he doesn't. I hope he gets help because he needs it. And, well, that's that. Basically, Anonymous is the power of the consensus of the people. That's why Anonymous is legion. That if all of us agree that something is to be discouraged, we can make that happen for the better or for the worse. Anonymous never forgives is, of course, the permanent and unforgiving nature of the permanent record of the internet. If you said something on May 4th, 2013, and this is a reference to you, go check your Facebook posts on that date, then it will be remembered forever and that will never be forgotten. So accept your mistakes, come clean, or don't make mistakes at all, because the set of ideals that you're holding to yourself are the most important now, and there is very verifiable proof if you failed them at some point in your life. And after that, Anonymous can be a horrible, senseless, uncaring monster. I already told you the epilepsy episode. I should have saved it till I was talking about this point, but you get it. Of course, there's also the bricking episodes where people were told to throw their iPhones in water or splash water on them or delete System 32 from their computers, which was essentially bricking them, which is true. Anonymous can be horrible like that. And of course, the DDoSing campaign against Boxy, Roar XD, who was a character playing E-Girl. Think about her as the proto-millennials Belle Delphine, but less sexual. I don't know what she's doing now, but I remember like that was a fad at some point in the internet history, and 4chan was obsessed with her, as 4chan is obsessed with Belle Delphine now, and so is Reddit and Instagram and YouTube and just Zoomers in general. You get it. Basically, she was a much less successful non-sexual Boxy, Belle Delphine, for context of people who are too young to remember Boxy Roar XT. And she was DDoSed, her account was hacked, and she was threatened off of YouTube. Again, Anonymous being an uncaring monster. Anonymous being not the hacktivist group, the anonymity of the internet that has been used or misused for the worse, at least to one person. and then Anonymous is still able to deliver. Do you really doubt that? The internet historian videos about mass trolling along with the 4chan sort of organizing to troll somebody like Shia LaBeouf, it's just a constant thrill for them. I don't think I even need to explain it. Again, I'll link the Shia LaBeouf trolling videos in the description below. But if you don't know what happened, Shia LaBeouf started "He Will Not Divide Us" as a movement against Donald Trump, where a white flag keeps wavering somewhere, and 4chan managed to find that flag thrice and vandalize it or put MAGA stuff on it. So, and now we're over with the anonymous segment of this podcast. So, what have we learned from rules 4 to 7, which I should have mentioned before, 4 to 7, not 4 to 6, is that anonymous is real. Anonymous could be all of us. And your anonymity is sacred. Use it very responsibly, or it gets a bad name and you will lose it eventually if you don't use it carefully, like we did. Two-factor authentication is a brilliant example of that. And slowly anonymity on the web will sort of die away. I think that is bound to happen at some point. But till then, enjoy it and use it responsibly. Have fun, kids. After that, there are no rules about posting, which is true. I mean, you have posting guidelines and everything, but there's always stuff you can find innovatively to sort of twist around the moderator's wishes or the moderator's rules. Not to mention the rules are made by most people to break. For some reason, taking moderation not seriously is a big thing. Just last week, I came across a meme about killing my wife's boyfriend, and it was an actual murder episode put on Instagram. It's very disturbing to watch, and I hope that person has taken it down as I advised them to. If they haven't, I'll have to go back and report it, unfortunately. The reason there are no rules about posting is because implementation of rules on the internet is just as loose as in the real world. You're only a criminal once you're caught. Till then, your crime is valid and your crime is behavior that you're enjoying. It's something that you validate. And I say crime, but like it's a wider spectrum than that. Some of them are crimes, like the one I mentioned, one where a real person's murder video was made into a meme, which was such a horrible thing to do. A legitimate crime to me, not punishable by law, but definitely punishable by the platform. To uploading pornography, to uploading soft porn, to uploading provocative imagery where it doesn't belong. But what is provocative? Who decides? And then that being misused over time. And then there's no real rules about moderation either. Enjoy your ban. Of course, the best example of this is Alinity, and I know that I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but it's important that we talk about her. Let's not talk about the parts where there's misogynistic angles even involved. Not say let's at play, even involved. Okay, because I know there's a debate to be made there. There is a considerable case on both sides, if you will. Of course, the internet is not the most welcoming place for women. If you're living under a rock, a lot of countries who have very conservative audiences that would not let women anywhere near agency, let alone internet that will educate them how to use their agency, have access to a global culture, and a lot of them use their anonymity and power of the internet to threaten and bully. And luckily, none of those people have infiltrated my platform yet, which is a good thing. But at the same time, Alinity is sort of the classic example of how moderation rules are not same for everybody. And I'm talking about a very infamous incident where she knowingly put vodka into her cat's system, and PETA got involved, and somehow she got away with it with zero consequences on Twitch. Alinity, if you don't know, even a spoonful of vodka could put a cat in a coma. It's very poisonous for them. And besides the incident of her throwing her cat over her shoulder while it was walking on her keyboard, which again is debatable if it's kind treatment or not. I believe it's not. But at the same time, you look at her just putting vodka into her cat's system. I generally believe that's a huge problem, and she should have been banned for that. I'm not going to talk about partial nudity because she's never intentionally put nudity on her channel. There has been an accident, and Twitch needs to fix their platform review for sure. Definitely, they're partial towards alinity if nobody else, and that just illustrates how their platform works and how there are no real rules, as you state, about moderation or posting. You can post whatever you want and you can get away with it if you have the right clout, or if the information consensus is with you, or even if just the moderation is with you. Felt like a rant, didn't it? I'm sorry about that. So that's rule 8 and 9. Then rule number 10 is if you enjoy any rival sites, don't. This was mostly about the rise of Reddit and 4chan being threatened by Reddit at the time. And of course, 4chan still maintains that it's the culture of the intellectuals, the real intellectuals anyway, and Reddit being the accessible intellectual stuff. But of course, both of them have their own cringy parts of communities, a fair amount of which, if you're not a lurker and a regular poster, I really hope that you're not as cringy as some of you come across. Unfortunately, not the best representation of both sides has been heard the most. So make of that what you will. But the more recent example of this would be TikTok versus YouTube. It's just this inherent ability and tendency of the human race to go out of the way to be tribal about literally anything, and territorial about anything, and gatekeep their communities, and mine's better about anything. And remember that some of these Zoomers will actually remember TikTok to be a good place where underrated TikToks were present. Besides the fact that it's malware produced by China, likely. This is just an article I read. I don't have evidence for this that is conclusive. Please read about it yourself. But apparently TikTok has been reported to be malware that could, capture your phone, things like that. So try not to be there. So that's what I would tell you. Anyways, but the cultural importance of TikTok is written. Some kids will remember TikTok as a good place, whether you like it or not, because Vine had the same reputation, and Vine sort of came out with a lot of compilations where some of them made it big. Cody, for example, is a great example of a good Viner making it into YouTube. King Bach, not the best, but he did have the large spoon though. And of course, Noel. I don't know if I never saw Noel's Vines, to be honest, but I did see Drew Gooden, who also has a really good channel now. So there will be good parts of that people will remember who were on that platform much younger than us, who will not remember it as a complete cringe compilation. Also, its cringe will sort of go into historical documentation as the cringiest of its kind. To be honest, if you've not followed Reptiles of Kurla, I genuinely believe you should, because some of this stuff is neck shatteringly cringy. Like I went through a wormhole and my neck was spaghettified, kind of cringe on TikTok, and you should check it out. Leave it at what it is and not try to gatekeep communities, because most of them will move to YouTube eventually, because YouTube is sort of the constant in internet culture so far, and until a better place comes out, YouTube is gonna stay pretty good, if not the best, and we'll see what happens. Anywho, the point I'm trying to make is this is just a tribal observation, and it keeps happening. This was written in 2006. They didn't know about TikTok versus YouTube in India, but it happened. So there you go. Make of it what you will. All your carefully picked argument can easily be ignored. This is the best rule that has come out of it. Of course, it's not a rule, it's an observation. But the internet will take everything that is careful about your argument and improve on your grammar, if that's what they have to do to prove a point, to make you feel smaller and make themselves feel superior. It is a tendency of the internet to do that, to sort of not lose an argument in their own heads. I am guilty of the same behavior. It's not rare to get into an internet argument, get carried away, and feel like you're the moral authority on everything. But I think it's time to stop. Let the kids do that for a while, and let's all adults act like adults for once. But it is true. Your carefully picked argument can be ignored, especially on the internet. Let's take the Carrie Minati case, for example. Now, Simon says, for people who are not from here, I'll tell you what happened. Basically, Carrie Minati is a pretty big YouTube star in India. He does his videos in Hindi, and of course, India has this huge stigma against Hindi speakers themselves because the British sort of fucked our psychology in that way that people who speak English are superior to you. That's one of the reasons why I had an inferiority complex till I have this accent that I do, that neither sounds Indian, neither Maharashtrian. Some weird stillborn child of all languages is my accent. Anyway, that's enough self-deprecation. Not This is not about me. So Carrie Minati uploaded a video about roasting TikTok and TikTokers, and a lot of those comments were unfortunately transphobic or misogynistic, whichever. And his video got taken down because his community caught on the transphobia, and they started roasting marginalized communities or using marginalized community slang to roast people, as in a greater social impact being it is bad to be transgendered or a woman or even gay. And that argument was put forward very eloquently by Simon on multiple occasions, and his very carefully picked arguments got ignored because he's engaged in similar behavior on 2 occasions, which were not noticed before. And to be honest, Simon bad. As in, that was bad of you, Simon. If you're listening, he's not listening. Let's be fair. He's never listening. Anyway, so that sort of got ignored, and they just put that and called him a hypocrite, and the like to dislike ratio is 50-50 now. Maybe less, actually, more dislikes than likes on that video. And then he came out, he apologized for his comments, and he urged Carrie to do the same, but Carrie instead put out Yalgar, which is just so cringy. Did we really need it, Carrie? We don't need this. Please, come back to the light. You can do it. You can do it. Apologize for your behavior. Act responsibly. Never mind. That's not important. Then next rule is anything you say can be turned into something else. The best example of this, PewDiePie versus Wall Street Journal. Now, PewDiePie, in his own right, has fucked up majorly. I've addressed this on my podcast as well, and it is reprehensible behavior. He paid the price for it. He was banned for about 30 days, and he had a community guideline strike, which is the kind of punishment you deserve for the behavior he did. He said the N-word in a context where it is derogatory, and that should be punished. That should not be tolerated on this platform. But when he did the Wall Street Journal thing before that, Wall Street Journal very clearly misrepresented him, and he lost a contract with Disney. So anything you say can be easily turned into something else. Classic example of that. And many people still believe he's an anti-Semite, which, I mean, I give them the benefit of the doubt because he's acted like a naive centrist for too long in this debate. And I feel like he could have done better, and so have I, to be honest. Like, it's just that I'm younger than him. Not that that's an excuse. I'm sorry. I don't mean to make excuses for myself, but he's acted like an irresponsible centrist for a while, and he can act like a responsible centrist leaning towards the right thing to do, which he has started to. So I appreciate that. And after that, we have do not argue with trolls. It means that they win. Now, I will give you a classic example of this. Milo Yiannopoulos. The reason Milo Yiannopoulos ever got famous by saying his racist bullshit, and I say it's racist, is because he genuinely believes Judeo-Christian based cultures are better than anything else, not accounting for the colonial trauma that they put people through, that their societies have had individualistic culture come up after thought that has bred on the money of other people that they exploited, some of whose autonomy was so crippled that they still go through the stigma of slavery. But let's not argue with Milo right now. He's another problem altogether. But he said he's a virtuous troll, and the fact that he kept getting attention for his trolling and people kept making hate videos on him, and then he kept getting platforms, is a win for him because he got to put his opinion across and seem like a boss, because he didn't have to be articulate. He just had to get you riled up and then say something that would be a straw man argument to prove his point. For example, his appearance on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan brought up something about ejaculation being in children's mouths, and in Africa, where um, that's considered cultural in some tribe, not in some civilized society. And not to say that it's wrong, it's right. It's completely wrong to do that. Just like FGM, or so understood by some cultures as uh, female circumcision, which is essentially genital mutilation. Let's understand that that's not okay, but at the same time, he strawmanned that completely, not realizing that Indian culture, is, as opposed to Judeo-Christian values, has achieved more scientific, uh, at least in space sciences, has achieved more. ISRO by themselves has achieved more in less than quarter the money that NASA has had in all of its lifetime. He completely fails to account for that because he wants to push his trolling across, and if you give him the platform, he wins. And it was just written right there. If we had followed this rule, we would have probably won. And that's the end of today. Another example that I want to bring in the national context is Divyangana Trivedi. Now, I bring up this name with much care because a lot has been said already. She got popular on Instagram for saying that she's not with today's feminism. And I thought she would have some intelligent arguments about improving the feminist praxis, but she just wanted to be morally superior to some people who represent the fringes of feminist movement. Probably using the feminist argument to establish moral superiority in one wrong contest or something. There might be 3 of these people for all I know, maybe 300 in 1.3 billion, of course. And she repeated the rhetoric of how equality has already been achieved, which is not true, that urban women actually care about themselves, which somehow is a bad thing. And she sort of ignored all the articulate points, and she repeated the rhetoric of how feminists are lazy women who want to just not go to work and achieve what men have, which is essentially not true. I myself disagree with that kind of straw manning of this argument. And of course, it falls into the red terror argument of how communists are lazy, and doesn't go into the intricacies of that theory at all. It's not a good way to describe or argue with that. And she sort of blew up because of her stupid opinions. And then the fame got to her head, and she made a second video where she just trolled the haters more and said, chase equality, but not something else. And she fails to understand that the feminist movement, where it comes from, is that there is the male and the other gender, which is The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir. It's a book I essentially recommend anybody who wants to have an opinion on feminism to read, because that's where most literature comes from. And Divyangana Trivedi completely threw that out of the window and says you should be an equalist and not a feminist. Which really, you're gonna argue semantics in a debate about rights? Is my question. Is because people would get confused about semantics. If all of us agree for feminism to mean struggle for equality from the feminine side, how much difference would it be from, say, just a fight for equal rights? I don't understand. You know what, like Shakespeare said, what's in a name? But that's a heated debate. I think there's more than me speaking about her. I think there are really, really good content creators who've talked about it on Instagram. I think I'll leave a friend's video in the description who's made one. I think she made some valid points in criticism of Divyangana Trivedi's point of view, and without is trying to claim moral superiority or monopoly. So that's part 1. If you made it this far into the recording, please check out part 2, which should be uploaded soon, or must be uploaded. It will be the next episode in the podcast. And if you really like the content that I'm making, please make it a point to support the Patreon. Financial security is something I'm chasing now. But besides that, if you want to support the podcast, just like, share, subscribe. Share it shamelessly is what I'm trying to tell you. And check out the video essays I've been making. I don't know if I promote them enough. Recently, I put tape 5 out in my Musings About Memes series on YouTube, which is a YouTube exclusive content video essay series. And I'm really proud of it. I put months of work into it, and please check it out.